Hello, I'm Professor Lieu. I'm here with art prof teaching artist Jordan McCracken-Foster. Welcome to our video. Today we are doing a movie art critique. We are going to be talking about Spider-Man from 2002. Sheesh, that seems like ages ago. But we're going to specifically be critiquing Peter Parker's character design, sketching, and brainstorming skills. If you would like to grow as an artist, but you can't afford an art class, or if you're trapped indoors and you need to stay occupied, we've got critiques and tutorials to keep you busy. All right, Jordan, this is your job on the art prof team describing what happens in Spider-Man movies. This particular one, which stars Tobey Maguire and also Kirsten Dunst.
All right. So this Spider-Man is the first in the long line of Spider-Man movies that have come out in the last 20 years, and so far in the movie, basically, Peter's gotten bitten by the radioactive spider, and he's noticing that he's getting all these powers like super strength and the webbing and all that stuff, and he wants to impress MJ, and so he goes to go to a wrestling contest to win $3,000 to get a car, but he needs a costume. And so that's where we are right now, where he's trying to figure out what is Spider-Man going to look like. And then the rest of the movie, you have Green Goblin, all his superhero antics and all that fun stuff. But this is like maybe 25 minutes into the movie, or
This is a
maybe
very
less.
critical moment because your artistic skills can actually influence your romantic life. If you think about it from Peter Parker's point of view, his whole
That,
relationship is based on him being able to make an appropriate costume for his wrestling match so he can make money to buy a car to impress MJ. See?
it's kind of like Jack from Titanic when you think about it.
Why is that? Come on. I mean, do people really have nothing else to work with when it comes to picking up people?
Apparently in 2002, that's just the way to do it.
Apparently not. By the way, if you guys did not watch this, Jordan and I actually did another Spider-Man stream a little ways back, and in this particular video, we do a critique of this portrait painting of Norman Osborn. That was a really fun critique, so check that out, those of you guys who are into portrait painting and Spider-Man. Okay, let's take a look at some of his images because he's looking at these car advertisements, he's thinking about MJ, and then he realizes, oh wow, if I win this wrestling tournament, I'm going to get $3,000. Then he starts thinking, and he starts out by just writing out costume possibilities on his notebook. And Jordan, what do you think about his first pass at this half figure?
So it's so funny because when you it's done in a montage, and when you do the montage, it's just it goes so fast, and you have no idea what's really going on in his head. And so my first thing is the mask in general. It looks really silly to me. I think it's hilarious. The little actually it looks more like a Black Widow symbol. We were talking before the stream about whether or not that's a reference to the other Marvel character Black Widow, but anyway, I digress. One thing that's glaring is his anatomy super off. The head's super tiny,
It's so bad. Like,
and
what's going on with the width of the chest? It's so wide and strange.
yeah, I know Peter Parker got his new like buff bod and everything, but he doesn't look like that. The the other thing that I have to get on him for is uh, there's no indication that Peter Parker's an artist throughout the series other than this moment, and he doesn't do any sort of underdrawing with this. He just goes straight in with a pen that's probably not the best pen to use for this situation, but whatever. And that kind of bothers me, to be honest.
Well, it's annoying because you know that he's not thinking structurally when he does this figure drawing. He's just thinking about outlines. And that's not how you construct a figure. You have to think about it from a more sculptural point of view. So Peter Parker, clearly not going to figure drawing class enough. He's not getting his weekly practice in. Would you say, Jordan?
He's probably never walked into a class at all.
See, that's just
I
so
would imagine.
disappointing. Come on. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So in this image, we see he's writing symbol. Okay, this is good. I'm a fan of this because this says to me that he's thinking beyond just the look of the costume. He's actually asking himself, what does the costume mean? What is the imagery? And so now we come to the next slide, which is him just drawing a page of spiders. What do you think about this?
Um, I mean, they all look very, very similar, obviously. And when you're doing thumbnails for a project like this, for something this significant, it's best to come up with as many options as possible. And the only real things that I'm seeing here, and I know, and I'm talking as if the Spider-Man comics never existed for the past, like 50 years before this. Okay, so pretend that Spider-Man didn't come into existence until 2002. You want to have options. The only difference between these spiders is some are more round and some are upside down. That's about it. It's either round, angle, or up or down. And there's no other variety to it. And it will be interesting to see what else could be done with this.
It's a bummer because I'll tell you, a lot of the times whenever I'm teaching a drawing class, I'll say to the students, okay, look, guys, I want you to do 6 thumbnail sketches. And I can't tell you how often it is that students come in with 6 sketches and they all look exactly the same. I'm like, what's the point? Why did you
Yeah.
even bother drawing the same sketch 5 times? It doesn't make any sense. And so that's the thing about brainstorming, is that your priority really should be on variety. You want to have as many options as possible, even if half of those options are terrible ones that are really crummy, which they should be. You have to run through a million bad ideas before you get to something good. But he's just going over the same thing over and over again. Like, here's
Yeah.
another thing. Why did he not look up photos of real spiders? Like, these are totally the most generic, boring spider shapes that really don't stimulate a lot of different ideas. Like, I did a quick Google search of spiders. There's so many weird spiders out there. Like, look at the strange pattern on the back of this one. It's like translucent. This one's like adorable. Like, wouldn't this be hilarious if he had referenced this spider for his costume? I mean, don't you think research should be part of this?
Yeah, and you know what I find funny is it looks nothing. It doesn't really look like the spider that actually bit him either. Like, I mean, we're gonna get to the color thing a little bit later, but these spiders, as far as I remember, don't really like look like the one that gave him these abilities, and that I find really really funny. And yeah, I'll say that.
Well, because what I really like about doing visual research is oftentimes you stumble upon things that you would never have come up with on your own. Because if you ask just your average person, okay, draw a picture of a tiger, most people are going to draw a tiger in a pretty similar generic way. Whereas if you look up pictures of tigers, you're going to discover all these different species and all these different patterns on them. There's just such a broad range out there. Let's see in the chat. Ray Mayo says some of them look like ticks. Yeah, that would not have gone over so well in terms of him trying to be known as Spider-Man. Rebecca's saying he should have Lucas the cute spider as his mascot.
I love Lucas the spider.
Salty Person is saying, my question is why he drew both upside down and right side up spiders if the poses look the same if you flip the paper upside down. Yeah, good point. See, Peter Parker, you would not have done well in my design class at all. Okay, so let's move on. Taking a look at the second figure, which he actually spent more time on. So we're seeing a full figure of the one with all these wings and everything. And by the way, where's the research for wings? All the different kinds of wings that exist in the planet, like animal wings that are bats and lizards, and oh, he's so lazy, Jordan. I'm so disappointed.
Well, I think a lot of people will fight you over the Batwing one, but I agree. I don't think that the research on the wings is very well done. First, if you're going to depend on something in New York to make you fly, you want to make sure you do your research very, very well. Because New York's got a lot of tall buildings, and accidents happen all the time. And if you don't get your aerodynamics correct, you could have quite a few accidents. And it's something else I noticed about just these drawings that we're seeing in general. The lack of small thumbnail sketches.
Yeah, why is he spending so much time on such a big, elaborate drawing? Like, he should have 10 pages with 5 figures each, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. And, you know, I think it actually would have been cool, even for the movie's sake, to have a bunch of pages of him just showing all the little possibilities. And they could have been Easter eggs, too, of other Spider Man costumes, or like really early things. But, just having one big drawing of something that we know just straight up looks silly because everyone saw the promo art and we know what his costume looks like. I think it would have been cool to have some of those in there, like, so we could look on 18 years later and be like, oh, I know that one. Oh, that's from, because comic book nerds would totally do that.
Let's see. Terrence says that the pelvis is reversed. Oh, it totally is. That looks like a posterior view. What's up with that? Yeah, that's wrong.
So I was,
Okay, we have the anatomy police here between you and me and Terrence. All right, Jordan, let's go. What else is wrong with the anatomy?
all right. So before the stream, we talked about the legs a little bit. And I think you said they look like a carrot, if I'm not
Yep,
mistaken,
baby
Clara.
carrots.
And when you're drawing a superhero, and maybe he doesn't realize he's going to be the big Spider-Man that we all know and love. He's just going to do some wrestling stuff. Um, but when you're designing something, you want to look threatening and you want to look powerful. And one of the techniques that is used is using more muscular figures and knowing where to place them because they look like carrot or sausage legs, and they don't evoke the power that Peter Parker's going for. It also looks like he skipped leg day compared to the pecs that he's got.
Well, people are saying that he totally gave up on the legs, the left hand is terrible. It's like he's totally falling into the stereotype of the figure drawing student who won't draw the hands and the feet. This happens in my
Yeah.
class all the time where people are like, oh, well, I just didn't have time to get to the hands and the feet. I'm like, you need hands and feet. Like, you can't
Mhm.
just like hope that they're going to resolve themselves because the hands can
Right.
be very expressive and they can actually say a lot about what the figure is doing. So, Peter Parker, not so good because you can see in the sequence that he really is like settling in on his ideas way too soon. Like he's not taking the time to really think about other options. And then another thing he does that really bothers me is the scene where he keeps like ripping up his sketches. Like that's so annoying. Like if you're ripping up
Yeah.
all your sketches, you have no record of
Hmm.
your thought process, and then you're eliminating things that maybe were really good, you just weren't able to recognize it at the time. Like have you ever had that, Jordan, where you thought something was terrible but then you changed your mind later?
Yeah, I was designing a logo for my project, and I had like a just 10 of them, like 10 or 15 of them, and I chose one, and for a year I've been using it, and I was like, this is kind of lame. Let me look back at what I had, and I saw one that I for some reason overlooked, and I used that, and everyone's like, that one's so much better, and I think back to myself, I'm like, why didn't I use that like a year ago? That would have been made my life so much easier, you know. So yeah.
Well, I don't know about you, but I just find that when I'm in like the heat of the moment and I'm drawing and sketching something really fast, I'm not really in a good mindset to be judging what's a good design and what's a bad design because oftentimes my judgment's really clouded. So I always give myself at least a day or two to step away from the sketches, come back, look at them again. He's totally falling into every single trap of brainstorming. Let's see. Terrence is saying Peter Parker needs to study Christian Bale more. He does. By the way, thank you to all of you guys who joined my stream the other night. Here's the one for the introduction, but I did do a stream yesterday on major masses with Christian Bale. Probably want to check it out because, I bet Peter Parker should check it out because he really could use some help understanding the relationship between the rib cage and the pelvis. Like, seriously. Okay, so let's move on and look at some of his other techniques for sketching because actually, in the later part of the sequence, he does start coloring and using all these markers and everything. Although, Jordan and I were looking at this slide where he's got this like huge smile on his face. And we're like, what? Nobody does that when they're sketching. Like, this is so unrealistic. Like, you guys tell me in the chat, how many of you have huge smiles on your face when you're sketching? Like, is this what you do when you sketch, Jordan?
No, unless the only exception, if it's early enough where I'm not like cranky because I'm sleepy and I'm listening to some really good music, That's the only exception. I'll be smiling because of the music, or if I have something streaming like something funny on. That's the only exception. But just normally, no, I never smile like that. Even when I'm really proud, I'm like, huh, that works, and that's about it.
I know there's a joke here at Art Prof that I always have this like really grumpy look on my face when I draw because when I draw I squint a lot and so I always look really pissed off whenever I'm drawing. So I just think this is like the silliest still in a lot of ways. So what do you think about him jumping into the color? Because he doesn't really explore other options, right?
No. And you know, like I've done in previous streams, I got to think about it in the context of the film too. Um, I don't think anyone would watch 20 minutes of him sketching the ideas, but it still would have been cool because Spider-Man has more than just red and blue. He has plenty of other options in the comics too. I my best guess is that he did that because the spider that bit him was red and blue, but that's about as far as I can go. I don't know why he wouldn't want to pick, you know, black or some other color to represent um, his suit. Because let's be real, I don't think red and blue are the colors that spiders are most associated with. So it is kind of funny when you really think about it.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't mind if he wants to be red and blue spider. That's cool, whatever floats your boat. But what bothers me as an art educator is that he didn't explore other options. Like, why would you just say, okay, it's red and blue, that's it? I'm not even going to think about trying anything else. That is
Yeah.
really frustrating because here's the thing. This is a technique that we actually show in our creature design tutorial, which is a really great tutorial. If you guys are into creature design, don't miss this tutorial. But basically, Julie Ben Bassett, who teaches this tutorial, she does this really cool thing where she actually does this ballpoint pen drawing of her creature design. And then she starts to figure out different options for color schemes. And so for each color scheme, she puts a sheet of tracing paper over the ballpoint pen drawing and then colors over it with colored pencil. And it's really great because it's super fast. You don't have to like draw the creature again from scratch. And then you have it on separate sheets of paper. And it's actually sort of fun because if you just look at the tracing paper sheet by itself, you really can just look at the color scheme in a completely isolated way. So it's like Peter Parker, just get some tracing paper and explore other options. Like he's so like narrow-minded in terms of his choices. Like he could have done so much better, Jordan. Don't you think?
Yeah, the funniest thing I just occurred to me when this scene is shot in the context, it's before the wrestling match, right? And when he goes to the wrestling match, he doesn't even have the suit.
No, he doesn't.
He has like another really lame costume, and then he does this later. And so I'm like, why did you waste all that time before the wrestling match designing this costume, and you're not even going to use it?
He
Uh,
is not good at time management. Like I think Peter Parker would not have done well in art school because why would you spend all that time working on this design and then like you don't even end up using it and then you use it later? Like come on, get your act together. Like this is not going to happen.
right. I
Dylan
don't
says
know.
at least he did a little foreshortening in that one. Okay, that's true. That is a pretty complicated hand pose. I would say he did pretty well on that gesture. That's okay. And Derek is saying because the spider that bit him was red and blue, he knew he wanted that from the start. And no, I don't smile while I'm drawing like that. Ripple of Aqua is saying, I love how worked up the educator in Prof. Lieu gets about this 2000s movie. Hey, this is back when I used to watch movies. That was like pre having kids when I was like, oh yeah, I could spare 2 hours. Now I can like barely get through like a 20-minute like TV show. It's like really sad. The other thing too, okay, maybe he's on a budget. Okay, I sort of understand that because, he lives alone with Aunt May. But if he had more of a budget, he should go get a broader range of markers because there's so many cool markers out there. And Lauren Welch taught me everything that I know about markers. So if you guys haven't used markers before, check out her tutorial because I use them all the time now to do lots of sketching and they're really great. Sometimes colored pencils for me don't work as well for color schemes because they're kind of light and they take a lot of effort to actually work with. So colors are a really good option. Sam is saying, I won't lie, for a person who has obviously never drawn before, these aren't horrible. What's your take on that, Jordan?
Um, so I would agree. If he's never drawn before and he just comes out the gate with this, I would be incredibly impressed. Now, if this is someone, if Peter Parker's like trying to draw on the side and or have that be a career, then I'd be like, you got some issues, bro. You got some issues, buddy. One of the things is just anatomy. We talked a little bit about that, but one of the things that I think could even accentuate this would be to change the how many heads tall his Spider-Man figure is. Some of you guys may be familiar with a show called Young Justice uh, or any of the Batman animated stuff that's been coming out lately. A lot of that stuff is designed by a man named Phil Barras, and what he does is he makes his superheroes like Superman, Batman, like 8 or 9 heads tall, and that makes them feel incredibly heroic. And if Peter Parker had used that here, it would just like really emphasize like, yeah, I'm a superhero, dog, and it would be so cool. I would love to see something like that.
Because you're right. I mean, the final drawing, it's not bad, but it doesn't exactly scream hero, don't you think? And I think some of it has to do with the proportions of the figure just feeling really ordinary, don't you think?
Yeah. It might have something to do with like who Peter Parker is because he's supposed to be this very meek, humble or wimpy guy, whatever you want to put, whatever you want to put there. Um, but he's suddenly kind of getting this ego trip. Like you see how big the pecs are, and his muscle just grew overnight. I'd probably have an ego trip too if that happened, you know. But um, but yeah, there's a couple of things that concern me with his drawing
You know
overall.
what else Peter Parker should have done? Okay, so the thing is, if you're going to work with spiders as your imagery, not only should you be doing reference research as far as looking at pictures of spiders, but you should go into art history and you should try to understand what a spider has meant to the history of the world. Okay? Because Peter Parker, why did you not look up Greek terracotta vases? Okay? All this stuff comes from Arachne, which is this woman who like got turned into a spider because she like wove a tapestry that made Athena like really pissed off or something. Or like look at this really cool ornament from like Peru. I think this is like the funniest looking object. And then it's like, come on, you have to contextualize your character designs, Peter Parker. You have to understand the legacy of what a spider has meant throughout history because this Ray Dawn drawing, it's like a very tragic, very sad spider. This is a very funny, very whimsical spider. And then he really should understand what a spider does in a contemporary art world. Don't you think, Jordan? Or am I just being unfair?
And some people may think that's unfair, but when he finally gets that date with MJ, it'd be a really great conversation starter.
Wait, was she an art history person?
No, but I think it'd just be interesting if she found out and he's just like, I looked at this and this and this and this. I'm sure, to be honest with you, I don't think MJ was all that interesting in these
She
movies.
was kind of
Their
dumb in this
chemistry
movie.
was so off. Like, I just felt like they were reading all the lines and didn't have any sort of friendship. Unlike the later Spider-Mans. I won't get into all that. But yeah.
Well, so here's what I would like to know. You guys in the chat, and Jordan, I want to know from you too. Which do you think is a better pickup line? Trying to pick up somebody with your art history skills and your knowledge of contemporary art or your character design skills? I mean, do you like show them your sketchbook and say, oh, look at these character designs I did? Or do you start talking about, for example, the mezzotints of V.S. Selmans in the 21st century? Like, which is going to pick up MJ better? Do you think it's art history, Jordan, or do you think it's the character designs? Because he could just whip out his
uh,
sketchbook.
Honestly, in real life, I would say the character designs. But in my opinion, I think MJ's so bland in this movie that she could probably be fine with just the art history and just all of the random things that that Peter would have looked up.
Let's see. Nathan saying character design skills, I would say. You don't want to sound too pompous. Salty Person says she faced Athena in a contest over who could make the best tapestry. This is Arachne. That's right. My memory is like not great at this Greek mythology stuff. But so I don't know. I feel like we should all like do this someday. Like we should try to figure out what's more effective at picking people up, whether it's the drawing skills, the studio art, or the art history. It seems like in the movies it's the studio art skills, but I don't know. I guess it worked for Jack in Titanic. He did end up with
I guess,
her. He did die though.
yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other issue. I think there was totally room on that board, but uh, but it's interesting. I think Pierre's priorities are all kind of strange. Like, first off, he does this whole thing just to impress MJ to get a car, which is a very big leap. Instead of just like she's your next door neighbor, just go talk to her and just like show her how nice of a person you are, and then. Basically kind of trying to buy her love, which is really strange. And then he goes and designs this whole thing. He doesn't even use it for the wrestling match, and he doesn't even take the $100 that the guy gives him out of
That is a lot of
So
work.
he's supposed to win $3,000, huh?
That's a lot of work now that I think about it. It's like the wrestling match to the money to the car to MJ. It's like, shouldn't there be a more direct route?
I would just say go knock on the house next door and just say hi. They literally are next door neighbors.
Big Hen 4 is saying Peter should sketch MJ. Oh, so he needs to whip out the Jack thing from Titanic and get on her that way. Let's see. Neil is saying maybe Peter should draw MJ with spiders because MJ gives him strength and power. Ooh, she would, at the very least, she would remember that, right? Like, nobody could say that, like, she forgot about him if he did something like that.
Oh, that is true. I don't know how she would take it, but that is totally true. That would be an experience to remember.
Salty person saying, I think it'd be character design because you can design the person, make them look better than they actually do, and then say that's how beautiful and handsome they are. Oh my goodness.
There you go, Peter. Take some notes.
Sterling is saying, are you going to do Portrait of a Lady on Fire? It's on our list. I don't know if that movie's out yet, though, because I really, really want to see it. But definitely, you're like the 10th person to suggest it. So many people have been raving about that movie. Anyway, guys, I hope you'll take some time and explore artprof.org. Check out some of the cool free resources we have for you guys there. Subscribe to our channel and join the Art Prof family. If you guys have not joined us on Discord, go down to the video description below, and there is the invite link down there. So you can hear me and Jordan talk about all kinds of nerdy things all day. And thank you so much to our top Patreon supporters who make all of this possible. Thank you to all of you guys who joined us in the chat with all your wonderful theories about dating life and drawing character design. I don't know, somehow it's all intertwined. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.